Jey Uso officially quit WWE on the post-SummerSlam 2023 edition of SmackDown. Jey Uso red hot after being stabbed in the back by his brother, taking on the manipulative Roman Reigns and being robbed of the WWE Universal Championship. He just went off, culminating in Jey decimating Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and his own brother Jimmy, yeah, the one who stabbed him in the back, announcing that he was out of the Bloodline. Well, we kind of already know that. Out of SmackDown and out of WWE. We all know this is part of some bigger, longer, arcing storyline, and where exactly could WWE bring this? Where is main event Jey Uso going if he isn't, on WWE and being moved to the alumni section of WWE.com? That must mean it's real, right? If we put him in the alumni section. Calm down. In all likeliness, Jey Uso is going to get some well-deserved time off. The last time he got a bit of a hiatus was back in 2020. It's only because Jimmy was out of action after sustaining an injury at WrestleMania 36. This turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as Jey Uso returned a few months later and instantly entered the Universal title contention picture. And this is where the incredible Bloodline story truly began. We saw an iteration of that back in 2016 and even briefly in early 2020, but it was different with Roman Reigns and a different Bloodline altogether. Reigns may be the central piece of the Bloodline. He may be the Darth Vader of this entire story, but nobody can argue that if it weren't for Jey Uso, the story wouldn't feel as thick on the plate as it is when fans bite into it. The fact that it essentially began with Roman versus Jey was the reason why many felt it should have ended that way too. Yeah, that Hell in a Cell match back then, all the way to SummerSlam this year. It's not hard to argue to get behind what's happening here. Cody Rhodes nearly won the title from Roman Reigns, the title he's held since 2020, and he might be potentially seen as the guy to do it again and end the record-breaking run of Reigns. But many fans have the opinion that since it's primarily a story about the Anoa'i family, the Samoan wrestling dynasty, then it should end with someone within the family. And that person, in their eyes, should be Jey Uso. We're on the internet, we're saying it, so it has to be true. Jey Uso would have gotten a huge reaction being the man to end Roman Reigns' run as Universal Champion. But it begs the question, beyond that, what can WWE possibly do? What would be certain is that Jey Uso could possibly never have a higher moment in his career, or could he? And you can see why it's problematic, as such an incredible reign would end with no actual plan for the future. There is a plan, by the way, we just don't know what it is, but it's fun to speculate about what all of these players could do, and how Jey Uso figures into all of this with WWE's massive flow of content on Raw, SmackDown, and premium live events. But now that his chances of becoming WWE Universal Champion are just out of the picture for the moment, it begs the question, what is next? What lays beyond the Bloodline? This apparent hiatus, if it is going to be a hiatus, is one that could play a major role in making fans grow fonder of what they're not seeing and be able to organically stretch out the storyline with his now bitter enemy and brother Jimmy Uso as long as possible. And since the focus has shifted from Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns to now Jey versus Jimmy, we're going to bring up that quote that Jimmy told us at Sportskeeda over 5 years ago. He said this to us: "A dream match would be me versus my brother at WrestleMania. I grew up watching Brett versus Owen in a cage match, and they beat the living hell out of each other. I thought it was really cool what they did, and they've been doing that all their lives. That's the same way I see us whenever we get the chance for that to happen." He added that their focus at the moment was the tag team division, and that was years ago. Now that they've already achieved all that they could in the tag team division, there seems to be no better time to finally focus on a singles war between these two brothers, because that's the closest they'll have gotten to Owen versus Brett in any way in the last 30 years. Could we see a repeat of WrestleMania 10 and SummerSlam 94 with Jimmy versus Jey putting on 5-star classics a la the Hart family? Yes, family feuds create possible, eternally memorable matches. It certainly doesn't excuse the fact that Jey Uso betrayed his brother, and it makes little sense in the storyline, considering that, Jey Uso turned on Roman Reigns and then got back together with his brother to beat Roman Reigns, only to turn on his brother. We're all confused about that part. That hasn't been explained. Jimmy's explanation wasn't any better either. In case you missed it, he told Jey that he was afraid to lose him, and then if he did beat Roman Reigns to become the next tribal chief, he would ultimately go on the same kind of power trip that Roman did, becoming a manipulative abuser himself. I guess there's something there, but it seems like a stretch, right? On the positive side, WWE eventually made the most of it on SmackDown. Yeah, fans were still invested in these characters. Jey calling it quits was enough to get fans to maybe just forget about the confusion and just, figure out what's going to happen next. We saw SummerSlam between two brothers blow up, and we're going to get Jimmy versus Jey. That's not a bad thing, right? So what you can expect from Jey versus Jimmy moving forward? For one, it doesn't seem like Jimmy is rejoining the Bloodline anytime soon. Just how Jey got his chance to shine as a single star in 2020, early 2021, Jimmy is likely going to get a chance to do that himself now.